Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, the podcast for women who are done waiting for the one and ready to become the parent on their own damn terms. We're talking fertility, pregnancy, emotional chaos, and the village that it takes to raise a kid. Sometimes you're crying in the bathtub. Sometimes you're crying because your toddler bit you. And sometimes you cry because you chose all of this. Welcome to motherhood, solo style. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice. I am your host, Laura. We are so happy that you could be here with us. This week, we are bringing on Joayne to tell us a little bit more about how we can stay true to ourselves as women who are raising babies on our own, and tell us about her intercultural competence, communication, and navigating the differences that we might face every day. So, Joayne, would love to hear more about you and your work.
Yeah. I grew up in rural North Dakota, went to the East Coast for college, and then bopped around the world, happy as a lark for many years, never finding a boyfriend or a partner that went anywhere. And at some point, I was actually a former boss. He said to me, "Hey, do you want to be having children?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You might want to consider freezing your eggs." And I was like, "What?" So this guy in his late 40s, based on his female friends in a mentor role, shared that with me in my early 30s. And I was like, thanks. Weird. But I also am like, that was part of the journey, right? He opened the door to that back at that point. Around 37, I got into a long-term relationship. I'm like, great, this is the one for kids. We got married. My career was going really great. And my marriage was really hard. I moved my stuff in and out 2 full times before the third final breakup. And each time I kind of got more clear. I know I really want kids. I think I'm willing to do it on my own. Yep, I'm going to do it on my own. And so I did. And since then, moved back to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I'm now based. And I have 2 kids with donors, a choice mom. And I do coaching and consulting around intercultural competence, and in particular, just helping choice moms to navigate all the things, all the complexities, right? To be with the choice and maybe opt in and maybe opt out, to navigate the pieces of the life. Wait, I'm not sure if I should change schools. Do I change professions? Do I whatever? Or I'm just really overwhelmed with this other stuff. Old stuff's coming up and it's impacting myself as a mom. Speaking from self-experience. And so I do a blend, and individually I do a blend of coaching and spiritual work and teaching and training some skills and tools. And with groups, I work on developing the skill set and mindset to be effective across differences.
And there's a lot of differences out there, especially as a single mom by choice, right? We can face challenges and expectations every single day around those things of, okay, you should be married by a certain point in your life. You should become a mother before you're too old and your eggs will die off. You know, the timing of all those things. And then if you put religion into that as well, that's a completely different thought process that goes into factoring all of these expectations, the society around us, culture, and just in general society, what people think our lives should look like. It's crazy. So I think that so many people on this path can relate to feeling deeply sure of their decisions of doing this on their own, because we all want to be moms, right? Was the point. That's the goal here, is we just want to be a single mom by choice while navigating the complications and the emotions and reactions from the people around us, because there's so much of that every single day. And so from your perspective, tell us a little bit more about the strong reactions of the non-traditional choices that people make when going into motherhood as an individual.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to, well, at this point in my life, I look at it and say, gosh, where are you coming from with that reaction that you're having? But it also feels really personal, because the question can feel like it's attacking my choice, my way of being. And I think what's at the heart of somebody's curiosity or somebody's judgment or somebody's even boy, advice, you really ought to do it this way. I think it really is, that's the way they think it should be. That's what's normal for them. And the key there is the for them, right? culture is the way we do things around here. It's the set of beliefs that we were taught would help us solve problems. It's our values. It's the shared assumptions of a particular group. The question is like, well, which group is that? Right? And if you've been paying attention as you get older, you realize you belong to multiple groups. Some folks have stayed kind of in one primary group. And to see someone who's stepping out of the typical behaviors or expectations of that group, they're like, whoa, 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 what's going on? It's not, I don't think it's necessarily malice of like, you have to, yeah, it's not necessarily malice, but it can be like, if you're not doing it the way that the group does it, then what does that mean for the group? Like, is the integrity of the group called into question? Is my membership called into question when you do something different, right? And so I think we underestimate the extent to which being a choice mom can be a cross-cultural situation if people are asking about it, right? Like, when I work with differences, we talk about the differences that make a difference. And sometimes it's race and gender and skin color and nationality. And sometimes it's being left-handed or tall or short or being a choice mom or being an introvert or being an extrovert, right? All of these differences impact the situation, right? And all the context, right? As you say, the religious context too, because there's an added layer of like, but I believe you may not be saved if ... right? Which is extra painful for them and for you, right? And so we have to sort of name like, whoa, unpack, what are these pieces going on here, right?
Right. One thing you did say that sort of resonates is it's the norm for them. It's the expectation for them, which is so interesting is we often put our expectations on other people, expecting that that's what they should or shouldn't do. And I mean, in your line of work too, the shoulds and shouldn'ts and coulds and couldn'ts and woulds probably are words we shouldn't use here, but we're projecting, right, our way of being raised and or raising our children onto other people.
Yeah. And that's one of the major pitfalls that we don't really realize we're doing. I think we often realize it when it comes at us and it hurts.
Yeah.
But doing it to other people, it's very typical for us to say, oh, well, what's normal for me? What's my frame of reference? And then we ask from that over to you, right? So, hey, do you have kids? That can be innocuous to someone who does have kids, but it really hurts to someone who's in their 4th round of IUI and has had a number of losses, right?
Yep.
Learning to discover what we have in common. Our brains want to connect. We want to be similar, right? And so that's also where that comes from. Like, oh, I have kids. You have kids. Can we connect on that, right? But rather than assuming the stronger play is to discover what we have in common. Hey, who's important to you outside of work? It might be kids. Might also be my 2 dogs. Could be my aunt, right? And so opening the question so we can discover, and then even if you don't have kids, like, oh, but I also love dogs. Oh, me too, right? Or my garden, okay, right? Or like, what's important to you, even if it's even broader, right? And so that's one of the skills that's a little further down the line. I didn't get that until my late 30s, early 40s, right? But that's one of the reasons it hurts is because people are coming from their own point of reference. So it's also been a little helpful to me to realize, oh, that's what's true for them. Okay, am I in a place today where I can say, hey, this is what's true for me? And have I become strong enough that I can help educate them? Or am I just going to walk away from it?
And I think you have to really know who you are too as an individual.
This ends up being really key. Getting clear. And I think that's twofold. Getting clear on... So I also think of culture as the juice we were pickled in. Like, what is the...
I saw that as a note and I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, what's the juice I was pickled in? And it might include religion, and it might include being early is on time, and it might include the ways that you do service to others, right? Or how you fight really expressively or very calmly without emotion, right? Those are all, it's all in your pickle juice. And you might want to shift that as you've grown. Like by the time you hit college, there might be some things from your family of origin that you leave behind. There might be some things you add, or the different identities, different culture groups give you when you're with them. Getting to know yourself, like knowing you've got a pickle brine, knowing you've got juice, and knowing that somebody else's might be different. Like go to the grocery store, how many types of pickles are there? Some of them are spicy, some of them are sweet, and you can add in what you want because it's yours, but you have to sort of realize, I got this jar and I'm in charge of it, and you have your jar and you're in charge of yours, right? And so as a choice mom, it's sort of like, yeah, I've got this like glass protective around me, and you have your glass, and they don't have to be the same because people buy all the pickles at different things, right? The different brines work for different cucumbers. Maybe this metaphor is going too far.
So tell me, why can personal decisions feel emotional or threatening to other people?
The way I look at intercultural competence, which is just interacting with anybody who's not exactly like you, is on this. There's a developmental model called the intercultural development continuum, and it helps explain how we make sense of difference. And it says it's developmental, that based on our experiences and based on how we're processing them, that's where we are. And one of the earlier sort of holding less complexity stages is, this is my way and that's your way, and my way's right. Or this is my way, that's your way, and gosh, I don't like mine at all. My people don't have it figured out. I like your way. And it's very us versus them, black versus white, with kind of a chasm in between. It's called the stage of polarization for obvious reasons now. So a strong personal reaction to the way you do something is typically because you're not doing it like I expected. You're not doing it my way, the way that my people carefully taught me to do it, or the way that I carefully taught you, daughter, to do it. And now you're stepping out of that. So it calls into question my entire worldview. And if you look at our country, we're facing that to some extent. Like, wait, how can that be true and this be true? One of them has to be right or wrong. And the more that we move along in our ability to hold complexity and see grayness and understand that, like, okay, so Laura, you having a child on your own and defining family in a different way, maybe that doesn't threaten me. We still have the same mom stresses in common, or some of the same ones. Oh, we both still enjoy a good sandwich. Oh, we both like to go gardening or see theater. So if we can learn to see what we have in common and what we have in difference and different ways of being, that's kind of the way forward. But the initial reaction is like, whoa, hold on. I want things to be as good for you as they are for me. And my frame suggests that this is the way that it's done. And they don't at that point yet understand that there's multiple flavors of pickles and lots of different brands and jars.
I thought, as you were saying about the glass jars, I was like, we're all just so fragile anyway to begin with. And the pickle jar just sounds very relevant to who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
So how do expectations shape relationships more than we realize?
Because so another metaphor around culture is like, it's the lens we're looking through. It's the filter, right? You think about rose-tinted glasses. We are always wearing culture-tinted glasses. And it might be easier to imagine that first if you think about your profession. I think once you get deep down into a particular, like, oh, well, I look at it from this perspective. I'm always looking for the angle, or I'm always looking for mediation, or I'm a lawyer, so I'm looking for the debating points. I'm a nurse, I'm always listening for extra things.
Yes.
So I think we've got those lenses. We just don't always have them. We don't always have awareness of the ones around culture, particularly if we've mostly hung out with people who have a lot in common in our culture. Usually, I have gained awareness of my culture when I have been living outside of it. I'm from North Dakota. I didn't know I had an accent until I went to the East Coast for college. And they're like, oh yeah, your words, man, you sound different. I'm like, no, I don't. I talk to the people in the movies. They're like, when I saw the movie Fargo, I was like, yeah, that's exaggerated, but now I can hear it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been exposed to that, you don't realize you're doing it. So the other thing that's really the reason we don't realize we're putting expectations on people is because culture is both visible and invisible. Yeah. We've got the culture we see, which is national dishes, pizza, hamburgers, baseball, the iconic things. It's clogs in the Netherlands. It is Italian food and the Italian way of being expressive. All these sort of stereotypes that come from, and just even national costumes and dance, all that stuff is really above the surface. The way we shake hands versus kiss on the cheek, one kiss, three kisses. But that's only like a tenth of culture. Culture's mostly invisible. And it's our values and our beliefs. And so what can happen is that I can have a value of respect. And that looks like direct eye contact, telling you like it is, engaging with you when, hey, Laura, I've got a problem, we're going to talk. And there are cultures whose behavior for that very same value look very different. If you're in some of the Eastern Asian cultures, like Japan, direct eye contact between students and elders is going to be a sign of disrespect. So, especially if we're in a professional setting, during an interview in the US, dominant culture, making eye contact means I'm trustworthy, I'm honest, and I'm engaging with you. But for somebody from those cultures, if you're interviewing with someone who's perceived as a senior position, you're not going to make as much eye contact naturally. Now, you might code shift your behavior for the context you're in, but that's one of those things, like, unless you realize the signals we're sending there, we don't even know. And so we might have the same value of, like, well, I see you having a kid on your own, and I have a value of family and love. But for me, that looks like doing it in a heterosexual relationship, committed with legal paperwork. And I see you doing it with a donor on your own. My values of family are not manifesting the same way you're doing it. That's wrong. And the solution, the complicated, more gray, more complex, is to say, I see that behavior. That's not what I would expect according to my values. I'm curious why you're doing that. What is your invisible value? Right. And then if you tell me it's family and love and being a mother, suddenly we have commonality at the invisible level instead of just judgment about how you're not doing the right thing to show the value that.
So when it comes to that, not doing the right thing of somebody else's expectations, I feel like a lot of women who have made this decision end up carrying not only our own emotions going into it, making that decision, which is hard enough as it is, but we carry everybody else's emotions and expectations around us into this decision. Me, for example, I didn't tell people until I was 20 weeks pregnant because I was concerned about other people's opinions and feelings and emotions of my decision. Now, my family knew at like 12 weeks, but still. So there's often this tension between wanting approval from others and seeking that approval or understanding from the people that we love. But we also want peace within ourselves to know, okay, I've made this decision and I can sit with it and I feel comfortable about it. So how do people stay connected to themselves while also managing all the opinions around them from other people?
I'm just feeling that one in my body a lot. Like, that's such the powerful question. And it's almost the question I want all of us to ask ourselves regularly. How do I stay connected to myself? How connected am I to myself? Because I think it's a process. As I hear you say that, I'm like, yeah, you just kind of have to keep checking in. And it's yes. a kind of a maintenance. But I do think it goes back to the invisible parts of culture and your own values. And realizing, I think there's a point of development of, like, I can curate my own pickle brine. I could add in a sprig of dill, or I could take out those seeds that I don't like, and I could put in some spicy. I could add in some sriracha, whatever, because it's my jar. So what are my values? Yeah. What do I care about? Defining them for myself. And then here's the question of, like, what do those values look like, sound like, and feel like for me? And so one is clarity. And then it's to, like, just really owning it and being like, all right, this is my brilliance. This is me. This is you. Do what you need to do to keep yourself grounded and connected to that. And that's where community comes in a little bit. And to some extent, you can be like, all right, it doesn't matter because I got my brine, I got my jar, I'm doing my thing. And sometimes it really matters. Sometimes it's really painful when there are near and dear. And as I said, like, people who raised us with really good intentions, then I would say you go back to this model. Like, okay, they have a different perspective. They don't see culture and choices the way that I do. We're operating with their values with one definition of embodiment. Okay, Can I meet them where they are? Can I understand that they're not able to see and get it? Yeah. Or do I need to stay out of relationship and step out of their life? But you've got to be grounded in yourself before you can be curious and understanding what's going on with others, and then you make a decision about your behavior choices with them. But it all starts with just like, okay, how do I get rock solid here? And maybe rock solid over and over again sometimes too.
Checking in with yourself regularly. This applies to many different situations through your life. And so just building that confidence in yourself to stay grounded in, this is my decision, this is who I am. And if you can't respect that, then maybe you shouldn't be a part of my life right now. What's the difference between compassion for others and also abandoning yourself?
Yeah, I think it comes back to this grounding. I always want people to feel so grounded and rooted and aware of their own way of doing it. Like when you are aware of your own culture, and this is particularly, I'll just say, particularly true for white people, because we are the dominant culture in so many places and have things that were designed for us, to realize that it is only one of many ways of doing things is really important. And to be like, it's okay. I was raised white, North Dakotan, cisgender, heterosexual, Lutheran. Okay, that's who I am. It does mean that sometimes I want to shut my mouth and let some other people take the lead. It does, right? And so being grounded and okay with the fact that I have culture and this is it allows me then to make choices. But if I'm not grounded, what happens is I can get swept away and assimilated. So I lose myself. What I want for us is to say, all right, this is who I am. I'm cool with it. I'm so grounded in it. I'm looking at this thing I'm going to walk into, this project, this situation. I'm thinking I'm going to need to shift my behavior if I want to be effective. So I maybe won't talk about X. Or I might choose to say this a little differently in order to be effective in that situation. I'm going to adapt. But I also know that as soon as I walk out of there, I come back to my grounded, awesome self. So I'm so strong in who I am and how I am that I can make temporary adaptations to be effective rather than, gosh, it's not okay to be me. I better be like everybody else, or at least pretend to be in front of them. And so I'm going to leave a bunch of my identity in the car before I go into work, and I'm just going to like show up as I have to be. And then you come home shaky and you can't find your grounding, right? That's the difference between sort of adapting, meeting people where they are, which I think is part of having compassion for them. Like, all right, that's where you are. Am I going to force you to change? Am I going to meet you? Right? Am I going to understand it?
Right.
Or am I going to like show up how I am? It's a choice.
And you could come off as like unauthentic if you are trying to put yourself on pause and change who you are for each situation or scenario or experience environment. And I think people can see that sometimes, right? So adapting and working and being empathetic to the needs around you and the people around you seems like a much better path.
Yep. It's got to be conscious and it's got to be somewhat temporary. For it to be sustainable. And then you got to come home and fill your cup and get connected.
So when making this decision to become a single mom by choice, why do so many of us feel like we have this pressure on us to justify the decision that we have made to the people around us or people who don't know us at all?
Because culture is powerful. We want to belong. We've been steeped in it. And I just think it's so vulnerable to step out of a majority model. It's vulnerable to be not the same. Because if we're not the same, what does that mean for our protection and our belonging in our community? So it can bring up guilt. It can also bring up some of ours like, well, I don't want to rely on other people values. And justifying it somehow assuages that, at least for the moment. I'd argue it doesn't always get to the root of the cause, but justifying it, well, because of this, this, and this, right? And so there is some inner work that usually emerges in that, oh, why am I justifying this? Oh, because I want to do it alone. I want to be able to do, oh, because I feel like it's wrong. Oh, I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling not connected to a community. Like that reaction can help you figure out like, what are the root causes around it? But I think first and foremost, it's hard to be different. It's vulnerable.
Yes, it is. Very much so. Personal reflection. Was there ever a moment for you where you realized you didn't need everyone else to fully understand your choices in order to move forward with decisions that you've made?
Yeah. I mean, as I introduced myself, I realized that the path was probably longer in coming and preparing me than I had thought it was. But it took me a long time to find someone to marry. That felt weird. And then it was embarrassing to admit that it wasn't going well. But something in me, I think it was just having really strong roots. My parents are fully supportive and have been. And I think the way that I was raised gave me enough solid feet to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to tell everybody that this marriage, I made everybody come to visit, it was a destination, like they had to like stay there and, okay, it's been 2 years and guess what? We're breaking up. And I realized like, okay, I'm just going to own it rather than live in shame. That was my reaction.
Right.
And then, oh, we're back together again. Okay, we're broken up again. I was quieter about it the second time. But each time there, I was like, this isn't working. And my parents were like, you don't sound like yourself. How you doing on the phone across the country?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I was fortunate that my parents did support me and wanted me to be full. And when I came to society, I think I did start to question it. And frankly, it was a married friend who said to me, get a sperm donor. And I was like, what? Okay, what?
Never heard of that before.
Well, I wouldn't know the person, the genes. I don't know, right? Because I was holding on to this marriage so hard because he was right in so many ways. But I think that was a real turning point when Liz was like, just get a donor. And I was like, a person could I don't have to do it the traditional way. She gave me some permission. And so I think it wasn't so much where I decided, it was this slow process of people in my path being like, you don't have to. What if? Right? But I'd always known I wanted kids, and I always knew I wanted two. And so as I watched my clock and the marriage working in opposite directions, I was like, all right, then we're just doing it.
Right.
And I didn't even give it so much thought. It just was what I had to do. And I ended up, my job was coming to an end. So I went to my divorce hearing pregnant. Didn't tell the judge that because it was a donor. The next month found a house across the country. The next month after that moved here. My job was ending in 6 months. I had one consulting contract that I hit send on from the hospital bed, had a C-section that night. And then I was unemployed with this single baby. Okay, all in the space of, the divorce hearing was in January. She was born end of August. I did all of it at once. And it was sort of like, this is the thing to do. This is what my path is. And it was totally inexplicable when I look back at it. It just felt right.
Yeah.
Right. And there was people along the way who were like, put your face to the sun. You can do this. So part of it was tuning in to the community who was there and my own sense of okay, put a bid on that house. Okay, do this thing.
I heard a few things too through what you were saying is one, overcoming the shame of the marriage piece and that not working out the way that you or society would expect for it to. And then also the permission from your friend, which I have heard that from so many people is we are given the permission to make this decision at some point, or we meet somebody who inspires us because we didn't know that was an option out there for us, but we knew we always wanted to be moms. And it's like, okay, well now tell me a little bit more about that. And so for many women, some of the hardest parts are the conversations that we have to have with the people around us. But it sounds like through your journey, you've had a lot of those difficult conversations of navigating a life that's very different from the version of what they had expected, but also sort of the version of what you expected your life to be.
That was totally a piece of work. It took a lot of years because there was resentment. I didn't want to do this alone.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be with him. Didn't expect to be making all these decisions alone. And there's the trade-off. Not having to compromise or consult is great. I can consult when I want to, but I have to make a bigger effort to do that. But there was a lot of sadness. So even as I welcomed her, I spent a good 2 years dealing with the grief and letting go of the resentment and coming to terms with this is not the path I thought I'd have in my life. And this now makes sense. The farther I got away from it, the farther I was like, this is what I learned in that relationship. And it was complete.
Right.
It was painful to get out of, but I had learned everything that made me the professional I am today and laid some groundwork for some of the personal stuff.
So through difficult relationships and difficult reactions from people around us, even ourselves, can relationships grow after that initial difficult reaction from somebody?
100%. I have a mentor here who says that navigating difficulty together will actually draw you closer when we stay engaged, when we work on the skills and the mindset to make sense of those differences. And sometimes that takes 7 conversations over 12 years, and sometimes it's 2 days. It really depends on the situation, but being committed to not avoiding conflict, but navigating conflict. And not even solving or fixing, but just it's a storm. We got to get our ship through it, right? Be with the gray. But that's then on the other side of it, we're like, look what we just did. And what did I learn about you in that? What did I learn about myself? Oh my gosh, right? There's all these intangibles that come as we're in it and the other side of it when both parties can stay in it. But staying in it is tricky because we
Right.
don't get a lot of support on developing those skills in our society.
We don't really get that support that we need. So when we have to have those difficult conversations, or we've had difficulty with friendships or relationships in general, how do we not lose ourselves while also protecting that relationship through any difficult phase?
Yeah, there it is. There's that tension. I
Yeah.
think I said it earlier, but do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? On a good day, you can be both, but on most days, you've got to toggle along that continuum. You can't always get them at the same time, right? I've got a colleague here in the Twin Cities, Alfonso Wenker. He developed this lovely little three-point phrase that is a guide for when you've got to navigate that stuff. And so he says, look at the situation and look at your goal, your role, and your soul. So, given the situation with my friend, what's my goal? Do I want to educate her? Do I want to be right? Do I want to stay in relationship? Do I want to get something from her? Do I want to persuade her? Like, what is my goal? And then what's my role? I'm just her friend. I'll actually have some power because I dog sit for her. Or I'm actually also her boss. Or whatever. Like, what is my role? And am I, like, how does that play into it? The power, the context, the hats we wear, the hats she wears. And then what choices are okay with my soul? Can I lay it all out there? Can I be really vulnerable? Or is it better if can I be okay with just telling a slice of the story today? So navigating goal, role, and soul can be really powerful to unpack it and name it, because there's not just one answer. But it's a matter of, like, some days my soul is okay with just biting my tongue and walking away. And other days I'm like, oh no, I'm going to tell you the full story because I'm ready to. Who cares what happens afterwards? It's really thinking, like, what's my goal? How much power and what kind of a role am I playing here? And what's okay with my values? And again, back to, like, that self, like my values, what they look like, sound like, and feel like when they're showing up and being right versus being effective.
When you have those days where you're like, oh no, I'm going to tell you how things go, how do you make yourself come across as less defensive, but yet more honest when you're presenting your side of the story?
Again, I've learned a lovely little tool that I like to help people with. So first of all, you've got to know yourself. You've got to really know, where am I coming from, and what's about this reaction, and ideally, what's the value I'm protecting here? What is my anger is always protecting a value. I get cut off in traffic, it's about safety, or it's about efficiency, or it's about the rules, right? Something's going on there. So knowing what's being pinged, what are my values that are at play here, and then using that to share your perspective and what's going on before you ask them. And I'm always like, try and make it broader, try and figure out what's right. Let's not assume or project onto them. Clarifying why you're asking, and then sharing about yourself first, the answer that you would typically have for that situation before you ask them, like putting your own vulnerability out there. So, like, notice the difference. Hey, Laura, how come you chose to have a kid on your own? Your coworker asks you, and you're like, geez, that was out of nowhere, right? Versus,
Right.
hey, Laura, I'm kind of curious and I'm kind of in awe that you are a mom, and I'm curious about your path. I got married after college when it felt like time. We had kids in our early 30s, and I love it, and I can't imagine it any other way. How come you chose to have a kid on your own?
Yeah.
They've said why they're asking. They've shared what their answer would be and their reasons for having a kid. Then they ask yours, right? So when we can do that for other people, that is a less defensive way.
So going back to what we were saying, in a lot of ways, this path seems to ask people to redefine not just motherhood, but also their identity, their belonging, who they are, what family looks like, what our friendships look like, everything around us. We are really taking a holistic look at our entire lives when we're making this decision, and who may fit in it and who may not fit in it. So choosing this path seems to require a huge amount of self-trust, self-love, self-compassion, especially when it doesn't fit the expected timelines of other people or that people had pictured. Tell me, what does it look like to live authentically in situations like this?
I mean, it's to love yourself. It's to get curious and familiar with yourself, and then to, like, I guess, get rid of the parts that you don't want, any old rules, any frameworks that no longer fit, and to try and put some gentle love around unexpected harshness or things that get triggered. We can't always get rid of those, but the IFS folks are like, love your parts, notice them, name them, be with them, but don't let them be in charge. Like, holistically be like, all right, this is who I am. This is my pickle juice. This is the kind of pickle I am. Strengthen the jar, right? And figure out that you're going to have to make adaptations here and there, but you've got to have a strong home jar.
Would you say that that comes with age too? It's easier with age?
Maybe. I think it happens. I think it's intentionality, and it's how you've made sense of what's going along. And I don't think it necessarily happens with age. I think with the right conditions, it comes along with age. And I think it can come faster if you have bumped into those things that have gotten you to do that work. I think a lot of people don't get it either, unless they've sought it out or had friends or therapists come into their life who are like, so I'm noticing this. Work on the,
Here are some things you need to work on.
or like it comes up in a way that makes it workable.
How do people build confidence in choices that aren't widely validated?
I think community, number one, right? Like, I actually didn't know any choice moms.
Yeah?
Yeah. And it was just that the married friend had said, yeah, I know someone who used a sperm donor. Why don't you? But then somebody else had said, there's a Facebook group of choice moms in Minnesota. And I was like, what? There's enough people for a group? And that was actually years prior. It might have been during the first breakup, I guess. And just knowing that existed was empowering. And then I don't think I joined it until I actually got here. But that was enough for me to be like, okay, I guess this is a thing. People do it. And I kind of was on this accelerated timeline to kind of do it fast. So I think the more we can speak it out and people can share things. And then it's also, to have that confidence, you've got to do the inner work. And that you're gonna get support from friends, but coaches, therapists, places and people that can help you be confident and connected with yourself. So you're getting a nudge to do this for a reason. You got to tune in and figure out what you need in order for it to be expressed.
I actually didn't realize that choice moms was even a thing until, I'm not sure if you listened to one of my early episodes, but my friend had said that she had a baby, and I was like, wait, like, what did you do? I didn't know you were dating anybody. How did you go about doing this? And then she invited me to all the Facebook groups, and I was like, this is a thing. Like, I kind of knew it was a thing, but I didn't know there was a title to it. And then I don't know if you watch Working Moms, but I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a thing. And it's grown so much since then. It's a great community to be a part of. I really didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the trick. Like, how do we get our community a little more accessible? Yeah.
Through all the work that you've done, what have you learned about belonging and connection?
That we have to belong to ourselves first. Especially if you're stepping out of the culture you belong to, then as that shifts or as that distances or you're breaking out a little, you've got to develop the internal culture.
Right.
From that place, you can be curious about others. That's how you can build connection. Because even among choice moms, we're all very different. If I was to say to you, so Laura, how it is when your 9-year-old does X, and you're like, mine doesn't do that. One of us feels weird all of a sudden. I'm like, so my 9-year-old does this, and here's how I've handled it, and how do you handle it? Or is that a problem for you? Or where are you on this continuum? Not all ADHD kids are the same, even though the diagnosis has the same 4 letters, right? So those assumptions show up even inside quote unquote same cultures. So you start with yourself, and then you get curious about other people, and then you discover what we've got. And then we find the strength and the complementarity, again, not a word, that exists. The full complement we can be for each other, right?
Right. We're making up words today. I love that.
I think we have that right. We do that in my culture. And that sort of like finding complementary stuff allows us to share the load too. I'm a great extrovert, but I'm not great at starting planning social things. So-and-so loves to plan. She plans it, but then I take the load when we're out there to initiate conversations with people. And so how do we be wing women for each other? And how do we, who's handy? And who's a good an analyzer about the best deal for the new TV that just got broken because of rambunctiousness?
We would probably make the perfect pair because I love to plan, but in social settings, I hate
There we
talking.
go.
But I'm the
Yeah.
planner.
See, this is all things
Yeah.
we get to like know and own about ourselves that then help us be in better
Right.
relationship with others and better community.
Exactly. That's a beautiful reminder that connection and authenticity don't really have to cancel one another out. So, to wrap this conversation, what's one thing that you hope listeners take away from everything we've said today?
I think it's know yourself and love yourself. That allows you to get curious and allows you to spend practice building bridges across differences because you know you're solid. You're like, oh, you're different. How do I want to reach out to you? Just know yourself and make some gentle edges around the rough parts so you can fully embrace it. Because that's where your power is. You already have
Yes, the power is within yourself. Sometimes it just takes reshaping.
Yeah.
Expectations and love and grace and all of the
Yep.
things. But not everybody will fully understand your path or any decision that you've made along the lines. But that doesn't make it right or wrong. It doesn't make them right or wrong. And it's okay to be different.
Amen.
Thank you so much for your time today. It has been such a pleasure. I think I've learned a little bit about myself too in this conversation. So I greatly appreciate it. And we will send all of your information along with the show notes for Sparks of Change. If anybody's interested in reaching out to Joayne, I have the information linked for you. And thank you so much for your time. We will see you next week on Choosing Things.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.